Mic check 1 2, testing 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
Testing 1 2 3.
Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2, testing 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2, testing 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
This budget hearing conducted by the Committee on Appropriations and Adjudication now reconvenes discussion of the fiscal year 2018 executive budget request. This morning we are meeting with the Guam Police Department to discuss their budget proposal. I want to preface this budget hearing with the uncertainty the government of Guam faces with regards to potential negative impacts to the general fund revenue collections and economic activity as a result of numerous factors such as the H-2B visa denials, potential federal tax reforms, and cuts that may erode Guam's revenue base, caps on Section 30, etc. With all these issues at the top of our mind, the Guam Legislature has the daunting task of ensuring that we provide funding for public services the people of Guam want and need. Just as a brief preview, the Governor's FY 2018 executive budget request for the Guam Police Department proposes $39 million, which is $1.4 million more than reported in 2017's authorized level of 36.6. I want to thank all the officials from GPD for being here today. And as much as you've already been sworn in, you may now begin your presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Before I start with my testimony this morning, I'd first like to introduce my senior staff with me this morning to provide testimony. To my right is my Administrative Services Officer, Mrs. Virginia Manglonia, my Acting Police Commander and Services Bureau Chief, Major Andrew Kitagua, my Investigations Bureau Chief, Captain Cristobal Castro, and my Acting Operations Bureau Chief, Captain Joseph Carbolito. Manana Seduas and Hafude, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Committee on Appropriation and Adjudication. I am Joseph Cruz, the Chief of Police for the Guam Police Department, and I'm here in my official capacity, along with key members of the Guam Police Department, to render testimony on the fiscal year 2018 Guam Police Department budget review process. What you see on the screen is the agenda for this morning's testimony. As my staff officers and I begin our testimony, I would first like to thank the committee for your continuous support of the Guam Police Department, and I look forward to a continuous collaboration between GPD and this legislative body to ensure that police service is at a level expected by the people of Guam, while operating as efficiently as possible to ensure that we achieve the best return on our investments for every single dollar spent in our budget. It is important to note that the staff and management of the Guam Police Department continues to work closely with the Bureau of Budget and Management Research, BBMR, and the Department of Administration, DOA, to ensure that we are meeting the intent of the current Budget Act and developing solutions that will assist us in achieving the priorities of the Guam Police Department, while understanding that we must be as conservative as possible. These priorities are to ensure that our personnel of police officers, statisticians, criminalists, law enforcement dispatchers, mechanics, and administrative and logistical non-uniform employees are led, paid, trained, and equipped to perform their duties. I am confident that the FY 2018 budget request submission achieves this and is adequate. Our testimony this morning provides an initial assessment of the FY 2018 budget bill, Bill 22-34, introduced by the Committee on Rules at the request of Imagalahian Guam, the Governor of Guam, Governor Eddie Calvo. GPD expects funding in the General Fund, Special Fund, and Federal Fund match categories to sustain police operations throughout fiscal year 2018. An analysis of the FY 2018 budget bill in comparison with the FY 2017 Budget Act, Public Law 33-185, provides an overview of continuing costs critical to sustaining police services. A detailed view of the categories in the appropriate funding sources provided in Bill 22-34 will show the distribution of the Guam Police Department's budget in the General Fund, Special Fund, which includes the Police Services Fund and the Tourist Attraction Fund, as well as a federal fund match. The careful distribution of funds within each category of appropriated funds is crucial to the performance of GPD's operational investigative, administrative, and logistical services, and thereby contributing to the success of the overall goals and objectives of the department. In the general fund, the FY 2018 general fund appropriation is $36,600,450, an increase of 4.69% or $1,639,668 from the current fiscal year. This increase is a direct reflection of 4 major initiatives. Number 1, significant adjustments to concepts applied by the officers assigned to the Operations and Investigations Bureaus. Such adjustments include the implementation of Community Resource Unit officers, the Mandania Drug Task Force, and reorganization within the Criminal Investigation Section to align with the Community Oriented Services Program. Number 2, projected growth in sworn personnel initiated during this current fiscal year. Number 3, increased facility space required for evidence control. And number 4, facility space to support administrative operations at the Records and Identification Section, or RIDS. An increase in the general fund appropriation is seen in the miscellaneous category, which directly supports an increase in the matching grant funding of $683,372, and the cost for uniform allowances at $126,000, totaling $809,372. Increases in the general fund seen in the salaries and benefits categories are to sustain the current fiscal year growth of 10 police officer trainees and the announcement for the recruitment of 33 police officer trainees, for a total of 43 sworn officers expected to be trained and or undergoing training in the upcoming fiscal year. 11 police officer trainees have begun certification training in the 8th police officer training cycle on April 24th, 2017. The Guam Police Department is prepared to announce the recruitment of 33 police officer trainees with an allocation of $1,293,907 in fiscal year 2018 for salaries and benefits in that respective category. Although this budget proposal projects a combined increase of 74.45% in the categories of salaries, benefits, contractual services, office supplies, utilities, and the miscellaneous category, we attain balance in the general fund by allocating our special funds to support capital outlay and equipment needs. It is important to note that the Guam Police Department has seen a significant decrease in the expenditure of overtime and projects an allocation of $800,000 in fiscal year 2018. This represents a 34.5% or $422,546 decrease from the current year's fiscal year's allocation, which signifies a more assertive management of manpower and services provided by our officers assigned to line units in the Operations and Investigations Bureau of this department. With regards to overtime expenditures under the general fund, during the current fiscal year, GPD initiated work schedule adjustments in the Operations Bureau in an effort to reduce overtime expenditures. A Panama work schedule was introduced and tested for several months at the Tumon to Mooning Precinct Command, which staggered 4 shifts with overlapping days off during a 14-day period rather than a 7-day work period. This initiative started at the beginning of the current fiscal year and was tested during the entire first quarter from October through December of 2016. This work schedule was terminated because GPD did not see further reduction in overtime expenditures, and officers were challenged with the inability to appropriately plan for their staggered days off or adjust to the schedule altogether. In addition to the Panama work schedule, bureau chiefs, division chiefs, and precinct commanders explored the probability of what is known as a 4-10 work schedule. In this work schedule, patrol officers were assigned to work 4 10-hour days with schedules that would overlap with each other to allow for officers to complete report writing and allot for time to conduct physical fitness activities. However, because of our current manpower constraints, as with the Panama work schedule, the 410 work schedule would not work in its design, nor would it produce significant reduction in overtime hours accrued by our officers. Nonetheless, the different bureau chiefs, division chiefs, and precinct commanders have been tasked with assessing numerous scheduling proposals to meet overtime reduction objectives. However, at this point in time, all assessments were reported to require heavier staffing requirements and therefore not implemented. Where the issue of overtime was once a contentious subject, now the Guam Police Department exercises great fiscal responsibility by curtailing the amount of overtime that it incurs. GPD has apportioned $1,222,546 allocated in the overtime category of the general fund in the current fiscal year amongst 3 bureaus that comprise the Guam Police Department. Of the $1,222,546, the Operations Bureau was allocated $696,000, the Investigations Bureau was allocated $372,000, and $108,000 was allocated to the Services Bureau. Together with the division chiefs and commanders, bureau chiefs monitor their respective overtime allocation on a bi-weekly basis and are empowered to implement direct measures to stay within the allocated amounts. As of the end of the second quarter of FY 2017, the Guam Police Department has only expended $483,477.20, or 40% of the funding appropriated in the overtime category, and has reached a significant decrease in expenditures at this same time in FY 2016, which was $630,198.17. In the special funds category, in FY 28, the FY 2018 special fund appropriation is $1,808,911, which is a decrease of 11.23% or $228,867. In comparison to the current year's special fund appropriation, the decrease in funding by category is only seen in the supplies category, which is attributed to the fiscal year obligation to support the operations of, number 1, the newly acquired lease for the evidence control section. Number 2, increased support for the records and identification section or service needs. Number 3, the refurbishment of the environmental control system at the GPD Crime Lab. Number 4, the partial support for needs of the expected facility construction of the new Central Precinct headquarters. And lastly, number 5, an Aegis conversion upgrade. Special funds increased slightly in the contractual category for the additional support for automation systems for the Central Precinct headquarters as well as for the entire department. There exists an increased obligation in the Tourist Attraction Fund in the categories of salaries and benefits to support sworn personnel performing duty in the Tumon Tumuning Precinct Command. These staff allocations provide balance in the special funds appropriation and, more importantly, address the need for the efficient funding for law enforcement services in all tourist districts with monies received from our tourist visitors. Additionally, it is in the Tourist Attraction Fund appropriations where the Guam Police Department is projecting funding of $70,000 for our Civilian Volunteer Police Reserve, or CVPR program. The CVPR program is undergoing needed increases by proposing to double monthly stipends and establishing efficiency in the transition of qualified police reservists from reserve status to full-time active duty through Bill 33-34 introduced by Senator Joe Sinagasine. Currently, the Guam Police Department is undergoing a long-awaited automation conversion that expects to establish enhanced concepts of operation primarily to officers out in the field. The capital outlay and equipment categories totaling $458,458 will help support this effort with the procurement of the needed hardware to complete the automation objectives. Field officers can expect to remotely receive computer-aided dispatch or CAD information in their patrol vehicles, reducing lengthy radio communications during emergency calls. Information such as firearm types and quantities or individuals with wants and warrants specific to an address will be available to responding officers through onboard laptop computers or tablets. These are few enhancements that, if funded appropriately, provide powerful solutions and an increased level of safety to our field officers. Having provided a discussion and displayed a presentation of our FY 2018 budget proposal, I would now like to put before this committee some important highlights that the Guam Police Department has realized with the funding that it has received in the current Budget Act. Thus far in FY 2017, the Guam Police Department as a whole realized 3 very important accomplishments worth noting. The biggest highlight that GPD initiated in the current fiscal year is the full implementation of our community-oriented policing service known as the Mandanya Community-Oriented Policing Strategy. Having moved away from traditional policing, which is very reactive, community-oriented policing is very proactive, whereby we collaborate with the community to prevent crimes before it happens. This is possible by establishing 3 key components: community partnerships, organizational transformation, and problem solving. The second major highlight realized by the Guam Police Department is the full implementation of our strategic plan, seen as our deliberate and disciplined approach to producing fundamental decisions and actions that shape and guide what our department is, what we do, and why we do it. Our strategic plan encompasses 6 strategic goals that lay the foundation for our way forward over the next 3 fiscal years. The last major highlight realized by the Guam Police Department is the reimplementation of a functional table of organizational and equipment, also known as a TO&E. This table is a deliberate analysis of all positions, uniform and civilian, listed in the department that justifies the appropriate allocation of our personnel, and logistical resources, which serves as a direct link to the department's strategic plan, the current year's Budget Act, our model of policing, and our police response matrix. With those overarching accomplishments in mind, specifically in the Operations Bureau, community outreach by way of the Mandanya COP strategy has produced a number of community outreach efforts, in part led by the different precinct commanders, to stand up community-oriented policing in their respective areas. These efforts include, but are not limited to, the Neighborhood Watch Program, the Business Watch Program, the Apartment/Complex Watch Program, the Gang Resistance Education and Training, or GREAT program, GPD's Community Resource Unit, Coffee with a Cop, Cookies with a Cop, the Explorer program, the Police Activities League, the Drug Abuse and Resistance Education, or DARE program, the Adopt a Poll CCT TV program, the Mandanya Initiative social media portal, the University of Guam and Freely Associated States Coalition, the GPD Big Brother, Big Sister, and AmeriCorps collaboration program, the Mandanya Drug Task Force, and the Mandanya Teach, which stands for Teaching, Empowering, and Changing Hearts program. Although the Guam Police Department has seen a slight increase in the crime rate since the implementation of the Mandanya COP strategy, we believe that this is so because there is an increased awareness in our community since we've initiated many of the collaborative programs under the Mandanya COP strategy. More people in our community are reporting crimes because of the increased accessibility and collaboration between GPD and our people. Of all the categories of crime listed in the FBI's Uniform Crime Report, the violent crimes in Category 1 include homicide, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. So far in FY 2017, we have seen 3 homicides, 43 rapes, 16 robberies, and 64 aggravated assaults. Based on the statistics gathered from our Planning, Research, and Development section, 80 violent crimes were reported at this time last year. Thus far, for FY 2017, we are at 126 violent crimes. That number is approximately 36% more in the number of violent crimes reported. Although the crime rate has increased in FY 2017, when compared to police departments nationwide of comparable sized jurisdiction, our island still sees a downward trend in Category 1 and Category 2 crimes. The chart that you see on the screen depicts the most current information that was retrieved from the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Uniform Crime Report. The 11 other jurisdictions that are listed have populations and police departments that are comparable to that of Guam. As you can see, the number of reported violent crimes in all 11 jurisdictions exceeds that of the number reported here on Guam. Based on those figures, Guam averages approximately 67% less violent crimes reported as compared to the other 11 jurisdictions. In our Investigations Bureau, with the formulation of the Mandanya Drug Task Force, signed into effect by Governor Eddie Calvo through Executive Order 2017-01, the task force and detectives from our Criminal Investigation Division effectuated 21 drug-related arrests through 13 search warrants, which yielded a seizure of approximately 100 grams of crystal methamphetamine valued at about $50,000. Additionally, over 7,500 pills of prescription drugs valued at about $22,000 were seized, along with over $16,000 in cash and numerous firearms. In our Forensic Science Division, at the beginning of the fiscal year, GPD executed the funding to start on the complete overhaul of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or HVAC system, at our crime lab. We expect the complete overhaul and installation project to be completed by October of 2017. With regards to a permanent evidentiary control section, or ECS, through the collaborative efforts of Senator Joe San Augustine, who introduced Bill 44-34, and Senator Tom Atta, who introduced Bills 56-34 and 85-34, that will allow the Guam Police Department to use Government of Guam property for the construction of a permanent evidentiary control section through federal funding of $1,045,000 provided by the Department of Interior Compact Impact monies. In our Services Bureau, all efforts concentrate on the goals, objectives, and actions items built into the GPD strategic plan implemented this fiscal year. The Services Bureau's efforts to achieve this goal is seen in the application of fiscal year funding to all programs supporting department operations and investigations. GPD recruited and implemented certification training for 10 police officer trainees, carefully selected from a total of 47 eligible candidates and 3 police officer trainee interview sessions since the beginning of the current fiscal year. The aforementioned police officer trainees began their training on April 24th, 2017, and are expected to commence to field duty in December of this year. GPD has begun coordination efforts with the Department of Administration to announce for the establishment of POT candidate positions, and we expect that this effort, together with the highly publicized Mandanya COPS initiatives, will produce a much greater interest in our department. In the Administration Division, the federal funding that the Guam Police Department received has played a key role in outfitting the department's Special Enforcement and Amphibious Section, or SEAS, with the procurement of a much-needed patrol vessel. At a cost of $490,000, this 40-foot vessel will significantly increase personnel capability and safety when operating in Guam's waterways. With funding received from General Fund and Special Fund appropriations, our Records and ID section continues to process over 55,000 police service transactions per year in the form of police clearances, firearms registrations and identification cards, traffic accident reports, abstract criminal reports, and firing range permits. In the support division, 4 Dodge Chargers and 5 Chevrolet pickup trucks were procured with OVIS funding at a cost of $187,350, and fleet repairs to patrol vehicles are ongoing at a cost of $199,717. In close collaboration with the Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, GURA, GPD has secured a $2,937,300 community development block grant for the construction of a new central precinct headquarters in the village of Sinahanya. We anticipate groundbreaking to take place on June 7th of 2017 with a completion project date of on or about April of 2018. It is important to note during this budget hearing that through our vision of continuing to grow, adapt, and evolve as we provide the highest level of service and protection to the residents and visitors of our island community, the Guam Police Department continues to evolve through changes in our Table of Organization and Equipment, or TONE. This TONE considers the importance of sworn and civilian support personnel placement to maximize performance and meet the goal of achieving organizational excellence and providing superior service. The assignment of personnel to address the demands for services in specific areas requires the fundamental refocusing and establishment of a performance-based budget. The demand by the public in the number of calls for service per year is addressed by the supply of personnel who are properly trained and equipped. In consideration of the number of calls in the calendar year and the distribution of those calls over 4 precincts by percent, we understand the impact or demand for officers in each precinct whose primary function is law enforcement's first response. Understanding this demand allows us to determine the number of patrol officers needed in each precinct, which we acknowledge as our main effort. The Guam Police Department built a matrix which measured the FY 2015 total demand for 42,308 calls for service against the current supply of patrol officers assigned to the 4 precincts. This revealed the need for, number 1, an appropriate distribution of patrol officers proportionate to the percentage of calls received in each precinct. Number 2, a sufficient number of patrol officers per shift at each precinct that functions simultaneously to investigate crimes, conduct routine patrol operations, and quick response efforts for all other calls for service. And number 3, that growth is needed in the Investigations and Services Bureau to support the main effort performed by the patrol officers in the 4 precincts. To that point, the Guam Police Department has developed a recruitment matrix, and specifically regarding sworn officers, GPD is recruiting sworn officers every fiscal year and mandated to train up to 40 police officer trainees per year over 5 years from FY 2017 to FY 2021, pursuant to Public Law 33-163. During this 5-year outward expansion, we will address the demand of calls for service department-wide, as well as upward mobility with filling roles vacated through attrition. As provided in previous testimony supporting the successful passage of Public Law 33-163, the budget impact supporting this expansion each fiscal year in the categories of salaries, benefits, equipment, and supplies will be $1,598,920. The Guam Police Department's FY 2018 budget proposal, transmitted to the 34th Guam Legislature, is a realistic need that greatly considers the challenges that we face in fulfilling public safety goals and objectives, and our fiduciary responsibility supported by the public budget. GPD has made great strides in its current fiscal year, particularly with the establishment of the Mandanya COP strategy and the strategic plan to efficiently guide personnel and sustain these efforts over the long term. In conclusion, as we move forward into our FY 2018 budget submission, the Guam Police Department is requesting a total of $39,092,734 in funding. This request is a $1,429,182 or 3.66% increase from our current FY 2017 budget. We are confident that this will sustain our current of improving our level of police service. The general fund, special fund, and federal fund match portions account for true personnel costs to include overtime projections and the recruitment of up to 33 police officer trainees and non-uniformed civilian employees. Additionally, we will continue to address issues in all three bureaus within the Guam Police Department, allocate funding for our CVPR stipends, purchase parts and supplies, and fund other contractual services. It is my goal in the coming year to continue in accomplishing my vision of the Guam Police Department by growing the department through recruitment of uniform and non-uniform employees, promoting our uniformed personnel, strengthening the Civilian Volunteer Police Reserve Program, increasing our vehicle fleet, increasing our fixed cost assets, and improving the conditions and standards throughout the entire department, all the while staying in the bounds of our budget proposal. In the coming months, you will see more police officers in our villages and communities. Through our Mandanya Cops program, you will see increased collaboration between GPD and the whole of the community. You will continue to see more down and new vehicles out in our roads, and you will see a renewed commitment from our CVPR officers who continue to augment our full-time force. The Guam Police Department is committed to the Governor's expectation to provide the best police service that we possibly can. Internally, we will continue to improve the efficient and judicious accounting for funding that is made available to our department. Externally, we will continue to work with our community partners and federal counterparts to take advantage of project adoption or sponsorship and funding opportunities. We are also committed to working with this committee, as well as the entire 34th Guam Legislature, to assist the Guam Police Department in accomplishing its goals to ultimately ensure that the needs of our island are addressed within the realm of police services. Sedus Maasi Pare Tempa Midu, and for this opportunity to present testimony on our budget proposal. At this point, I am subject to any question that this committee may have.
Thank you very much, Chief. Just as an opening question, of the $36 million that we appropriated to you last year, did you receive the full 36?
At this point,
How much has not been received, or?
We did receive all the funding. As far as based on the release, we do have some funding in reserves right now. But it's not to say that we're not, once we acquire the need for the funding, we will do a request for release.
Let me rephrase the question. It's now June. The fiscal year ended September 31st. How much of the 2016 appropriation was not received by the Guam Police Department?
2016, we did receive all our funding. Everything was released.
Did you get the cash, or was it released by BBMR?
All funding was released.
And including the cash? Because BBMR releases, authorizes. But did Department of Administration provide you all $36.6 million?
Yes, we did.
It's because I was talking to the education people yesterday, and they didn't. So,
Mr. Speaker, we mistook the initial question. We thought you were talking about 17's budget. 16's budget, we received
17. Just this last, no, the 16 budget.
16 budget, Mr. Speaker, all monies approved appropriated by the 33rd Guam Legislature in the 16 budget was released to the Guam Police Department.
And let's start by commending you for fulfilling your commitment to us in budget hearings last year, that you would do something to address the overtime. Usually we are meeting because we're fighting on whether or not we should appropriate $2 million for your overtime or $800,000 or something. You implement orders that have addressed overtime. Yes, sir. But in analyzing the overtime, and these are stated by you and nowhere mentioned in the presentation, where exactly is executive security under policies? What division? I looked from operations on page
Is the police commanders of the West Transit?
Okay. The reason that I asked, I mean, we talked about the reduction in time, but the reports provided to us show that, as you have on your screen, that overtime cost has been $473,780 paid period March 18th. This is inclusive of overtime, hourly pay, special and period while also working overtime, and any benefit costs associated with overtime costs. If these costs were to continue at the same rate for the next 4 periods in the fiscal year, total overtime costs for GPD would come to approximately $1 billion.
We have a question for $1,220,546 for the fiscal year. With the would be based on what given to us in our budget. Its importance was that $1,222,546 or $47.
And the thing that actually caught my attention until you need anything more is 52% of the cost is attributed to 14 of your demands under the executive security. Based on your staffing data, there are 362 individuals in your department, and 14 of them are costing the taxpayer over half the overtime, and the overtime rate is special pay GPD has had. And I have some great concern about that. In one period, I saw one sergeant assigned to the executive scale pulled in $10,505.60 in overtime related special pay. That was one period. Your report indicated that this individual worked 134 overtimers, 140 hours for individual singly. And this is in addition to that individual's regular pay. During the same period, there was another officer assigned the same pay period. There was another officer assigned to the executive people that was also worth 135 hours. Each two individual cost more than 10 other division and
Chapter 77, the main act, which allows people to distribute forces accordingly to meet the intent and the need of the community. The unit that we have that governs the executive security with the need to keep the executive chief executives of our government safe and secure. For that reason, they have a portion of the number of that we have with the evidentiary to the executive sector. Again, they include years over time. We are working with the executive security. We are working with the office of the governor and lieutenant governor. Overall, generally speaking, we have brought those figures down, those costs down. So as you can see, overall in the department, we have made strides in reducing that. But again, it is because of what mandate or what listed or what's captured in Chapter 77. With my authority to source the officers accordingly, we had a look at that. We found the operation executive security section. While it appears they are, or in actuality they are, in comparison to the rest of the department, overall as a department, we are going to bring the program expenditure down. Based on that, and based on how the governor decides to supervise the agency, the expenditure government has out in the Guam, I can work with the office of the governor.
A lump sum of $660,987 for contractual services under the Chief of Police section of your budget request. Unfortunately, we've not detailed all the maintenance agreements, and I had to lump all these contracts under one description. Is this the vehicle leases?
That is correct, Mr. Speaker.
How much does GPD pay for vehicle leases total per year?
The total that we're paying in vehicles that we are leasing is $58,500.
Based on some invoices I've received, the 2 Lincoln Navigators and the Ford Expedition cost the Guam Police Department $4,570 per month. Is that correct?
Since October of 2016, we have paid every month $4,875 on a monthly basis, continuing across, projecting into September of 2017 for a total of $58,500 in lease of
And
vehicles.
how many vehicles are you talking for the 4,000?
Those are 3 vehicles, 3 2015 Lincoln Navigators.
So those are the only vehicles you have?
Those
on
are the
lease?
only vehicles we're leasing.
And who are these assigned to?
They're assigned to the Governor of Guam, the First Lady, and the Lieutenant Governor.
I've been asked to recess. I believe there is a situation that requires everybody's attention.
That requires what again, Mr. Speaker? I'm sorry?
Requires your attention.
Yes, sir.
All right, so why don't we recess? And when we get off the air, I'll say what it is.